with you for the next 45 minutes or so as we go on a little tour of all of our waterholes around Africa, well, southern Africa and eastern Africa as well. We've started off at Tau, where I know we did have some elephants before, so we're just scanning to see if we can see any others. But whilst we are doing that, don't forget that this is a live and interactive show, and you are welcome and encouraged to send through any of your questions or comments for anything that we're seeing or anything you'd like to know about in terms of African wildlife, and I will do my very, very best to answer any questions that you send in. I don't promise to have the answers to all of them, but we'll see how we get on. Hello, April Owl. Happy Tuesday to you as well. Glad to hear you have your coffee at hand. It's always an important companion on a day like today. Okay, it looks like, unfortunately, the elephants have bested us at Tau, so we are going to head along to Kwamaraton and see if we can find some mammalian activity for you there. And there we go, there we go. We do have some elephants. Excellent. Although it does look as if they may not be hanging around for too long. Now, often when we do see elephants come down for a drink, they do tend to drink and then disappear quite quickly. But on rare occasions, they do stay around, and I'm sure all of you had witnessed some of these wonderful pool parties of elephants before. We've had some amazing sightings on these shows where they hang around for hours on end and having an absolute blast, and it's such a wonderful opportunity to witness some of their social interactions between themselves. It's always the best part about elephants, always doing stuff. Always communicating with each other. The tactile communication, the audio communication is really, really fascinating to watch. Hello, Rolling Trouble. Welcome from Washington. And hello, Aussie Jan 2 as well. Good afternoon to you. It seems those elephants were a little bit camera shy, unfortunately. We just saw some bottoms disappearing, but we've gone back to Tau because we have found 3 crocodiles. How awesome is that? We often do see an individual croc here and there at Tau, but how nice is that to see 3 of them lying out on the bank? It's such an amazing animal. It is one of my favourite animals to view. They're not often particularly active, but there is something so compelling about them. A lot of people talk about how afraid they are of buffalo, for example. Speak to most guides and they'll tell you the thing they're most wary about is buffalo. But for me, I think it has to be the crocodile. It is the ultimate assassin. It is perfectly designed for what it does. And I've said this a few times before, but the simple fact that it has remained unchanged for hundreds of millions of years really just puts it into perspective how much of a, dare we say, perfect organism this thing actually is. Hello, Zygote. Glad you could also join us. Now, Tao's quite well known for some of its crocodile sightings. I've seen some amazing things at this waterhole, including a crocodile eating what I believe, at least, to be a cobra of some description not that long ago. Some debate over whether or not the crocodile killed the snake itself or whether it happened to find the snake in the water and just enjoyed a little snack. But they are opportunistic feeders as well, of course. They don't have to take their own prey, and probably of all of nature's cleanup crew, they are perhaps the most well equipped dealing with that sort of fetid, disease-ridden meat that a lot of other animals would turn the fat. But such is the digestive strength, the acidity of a crocodile's stomach, there is not much that it can't digest and make use of. We've got lots of people coming to say hi now. Mr. HUAE87, hello to you as well. Hello, Chris. Mandy Tillpow, yes, that is my voice. Hello, nice to hear from you as well. Jive Bunny also saying, somewhere not far from you in the south of the UK. Yes, for those of you who do not know, I am still, and I'm going to use the word stuck in the UK at the moment. I will hopefully be returning back to South Africa in the next, I'm going to say days, it may well be weeks, but looking forward to getting back, certainly. But for now, I'm very, very grateful for these opportunities to get my fix of the African animals. and certainly the second I set foot, well, the second I set foot, but probably within a day or two of getting back, you will not see me for a cloud of dust disappearing into Kruger Park for a little while and exploring some of those wonderful, wonderful open areas of wilderness that I have dearly missed of late. Mr. UAE, you have coffee and cake. You've gone one better. I think why not? Definitely have some cake, maybe a donut or two. DNC, you are in Seattle and you're on your second cup of coffee now. Well, unless my geography is incorrect, it is morning for you, so I think you're allowed multiple cups of coffee in the morning just to get you going. These crocodiles look as if they could use some caffeine in their diets as well. But of course, they are just enjoying some of the winter sunshine. Don't forget that for those of you in the Northern Hemisphere, where we are in what hopefully is for you a nice summer period, down in South Africa it is winter, which does mean despite relatively warm days, the nights do get very cold, particularly up there in Madikwe. It can get down to very low single figures, if not even lower sometimes. Oh, we've got a spurwing goose who's coming in to investigate. We get too close. It looks like a little francolin or a spurfowl, also even closer. I'd say very rarely will you see a crocodile go for a bird. It's just not worth the effort in terms of a sort of a risk-reward situation. Not to say it doesn't happen. When I was doing one of the Africam shows a little while ago, we watched a video of a crocodile eating what we think was a vulture. Again, whether or not that vulture had come down just for a bit of a bath, because vultures are far more clean than people give themselves credit for. They'll often come down and bathe in the water. Whether it was just unsuspecting and got taken out by a croc, or whether it did meet its end in a more natural manner and the crocodile just capitalized on that, we will never know. But not often that you'll see a crocodile take a snap at a passing bird. But never say never, the beauty of the bush. Namaste Zygotes as well, glad you can join us. And Karu as well, hi to you. So wonderful to have all of you giving us your greetings and to know that you're enjoying these pictures. Someone's probably going to ask at some point whether we can sex these crocodiles, and the simple answer is from a picture on a camera, the answer would be no. You would need to sort of roll the crocodile onto its back and have a good sort of poke around in the belly to establish whether it is male or a female when they are this size. But this is, again, hard to gauge perspective just from a picture, but I would say this is sort of maximum size or normal size for a female crocodile. They'll get up to about 3.5 meters maybe for a good sized one, but the males will continue to grow. So as the crocodile gets older and does grow, the males will get even larger. When you get up to seeing those sort of 4.5, 5, maybe even 5.5 meter crocodiles, you can pretty much guarantee that that will be a male. Okay, well, that was nice to see 3 crocs all together. Now we have a nice little surprise for you. I believe that for the first time, we are going to take you to a new camera, one of 2 new cameras at Mabulla Game Reserve, up in the Waterberg, just north of Johannesburg. Now, I've never seen this waterhole before, so let's just see the water on the left. Look at those beautiful autumn colours, those winter colours. Dry grass. Now remember, we're up more in the high veld here, so much more open, more what we call sour felt grasses, far fewer big trees, a lot of sort of acacia scrub, a little bit more open as a rule. Now I have been to Mabulla before. It was many, many, many years ago now, but I did some walking on Mabulla and a few drives there. Had a very interesting buffalo encounter on foot. One day there we were walking with a group and disappeared into one of those thickets. Tried to establish, is that an elephant there or is that a bush? No, I think it's a bush, but it looked rather like an elephant in the distance. We followed buffalo tracks into sort of this sort of thorn felt where it can get really thick. And despite the fact that none of the trees are particularly high, it can get very difficult to pick a path through there, and certainly your escape routes are minimal, and certainly you need to be very careful of going into a thicket full of buffalo when your visibility isn't very good. And when it comes to the walking qualifications, we as guides have to log what we call encounters. So every time we do a walk, we have a logbook that we fill in with a description of when it was, how many people we had, a brief description of what we did on the walk, what we saw, and if we had any big game encounters, we log those, and that goes towards sort of a portfolio of evidence for attaining your qualification or being ready to be assessed to attain your qualification. And there are some times where you can not see an animal and it still counts, and this was one of those occasions because we as a group walked into this thicket. We could hear buffalo, we could smell buffalo. We were so close to them that we could literally hear the pats, the dung landing on the floor, but we could not get a visual anywhere with eyes. We never actually saw a buffalo, but we all agreed that, well, they were most definitely there, and it was just too dangerous to sort of push any deeper into that thicket just to try and get a visual from a safety perspective, which is the #1 priority. It just wasn't worth it. So we chose to extract from the area, but that still counted as an encounter because the animal was definitely there and we made choices based on the presence of that animal. So interesting, that whole process of becoming a trails guide now, or a walking guide. It's quite complicated, but for very good reason. There's an awful lot of responsibility on your shoulders when you're on foot. Very, very different experience to being in a car. Okay, well, shame we haven't seen anything at Mabulla there, but that gives you a little sneak peek for one of our new cameras at Mabulla Game Reserve. But I think for now we are going to head up to Oldonyo in Kenya. So we're going to shoot all the way up to East Africa. Oh, beautiful. Big elephant bull swaying. Looks like he was swaying in the... Oh, look at that. Now that's a big adult bull. And just a little greeting with this other one coming in behind. Interesting to see. Well, I don't think we're going to have any aggression. But nice little... I'm the bigger of the two of you, and I'm just making my point known. Giant Bunny, you're going to sneak into my suitcase and come to South Africa with me. I would love to say please do, but I can guarantee you there won't be enough space. I'm struggling for weight restrictions as is. I've got far too much equipment that I need to bring back, and I think I'm going to have to ditch all of my clothes and everything else for that matter. I'm going to have a suitcase full of cables, adapters, and telescope and camera equipment pretty much. So I don't know if there'll be space for you, but we'll see. Christine in the wild, you're enjoying what will be hopefully a regular visit to one of our, I believe I'm right in saying, 2 new cameras at Mabulla, but lovely landscape, a bit different from some of the other stuff we see. But this is also beautiful to see these 2 bulls. You can see how the one on the right is much more mature, is just more filled out, just has a larger bulk. You can see those indentations on the forehead, a good sign of age, just the size of his head compared to this one on the left. Definitely the older and more mature of these 2 bulls. And a beautiful tusk, but only 1 tusk by the look of it. Love the way he's draping his trunk over that tusk. I'm trying to see if he's in must. It looks like there might be a little bit of a temporal gland stain, but I don't see anything obvious on the inside of the back legs to suggest that he's dripping litres and litres of urine. They can lose tens of litres of moisture from dripping that urine when they are in full must. But quite why he's only got 1 tusk, of course, we will never know for sure. It's possible that he was born with only 1 tusk, although more likely it's got broken off in an exchange with another elephant, or possibly even trying to lever some bark or break a branch. But you can see how it's compensated. Look at the tip of the tusks that we can see, and you can see there's like a little notch taken out of it, and it's been cleaned at the end because he doesn't have the choice to be a left or a right-handed elephant now, as it were. You can see constantly using that tusk to snap branches over, using it like a lever. So just even having lost a tusk, it won't really be holding him back. Chris, you're also enjoying these beautiful shots of the elephants. That was lovely to see his big head flap, and you saw the dust come up, and that little bit of backlight and that cloud of dust around his head. If you've never experienced a full-blooded head flap from an elephant, it is quite an intimidating thing. Not only visually but also audibly. Those ears slap against the shoulders, and it's not exactly like a gunshot, but there's an audible crack as those ears bounce off the shoulders. April Owl, you're asking what are the food sources for the grazers at this time of year. Well, as you have suggested there, trees is the main one, and also bark and cambium. Seed pods which have fallen onto the ground, even sort of dead leaves, dried leaves that have fallen down as well. I've seen with my own eyes, I've seen elephants using their teeth to sort of rake off the bark of a tree and chew on the cambium layer, just like we often associate with elephants doing. So that is a very good source, certainly. Also some of the roots. Don't forget that a lot of these perennial species of grasses, they may look dead, but just under the surface, they're rhizomes, which are like the grass roots, as it were. They're still holding the nutrients and the minerals, so that when the rains do come, those plants will come back again. So that's what we call a perennial species that has multiple years in it, as opposed to an annual, which would only live for 1 year. Oh, beautiful visuals. So cambium, a lot of leaves, a lot of seed pods that have fallen onto ground. There's a surprisingly high protein content in some of those leaves and those seed pods, certainly. Beautiful views of this elephant having a drink there. There seems to be certainly a little bit of peace between the two of them, but you can really see now the difference in size. If you look at their heads, just how much wider the one on the right from our perspective is. His head is across the bridge of the trunk, bridge of the nose. Good sign of age. Elephants continuing to grow, of course, the older they get. Clive Bunny, you're suggesting we haven't seen one ton at Oldonio for a few days. I'm sure there are other waterholes that he will head to and frequent, certainly. I know last time I did this, we were watching some clips, some video of him, and he had some blood oozing down his tusk. Myself and Trish were sort of debating what he might have done, whether he damaged the roots by trying to lever something with it, or possibly in a bit of a scuffle with another elephant, or was it an abscess which had burst? I'm not sure. If anybody does know anything more about it, if anyone has seen him recently, and if there is still any obvious signs of that damage to would have been his right tusk, if I remember rightly. It'd be interesting. Are you asking what is the low felt and what does it compare to other felts? Well, the low felt, as the name suggests, is sort of more lower lying areas. So the eastern side of South Africa, the classic Kruger areas that we often talk about, is a much lower altitude. And you get different types of grasses there. The climatic conditions are slightly different as well, whereas the high veld is that area closer to Johannesburg. Less tasty grasses, does get a little bit cooler. Oh wow, look at Jackal! So we're at Mabulla now, and here is a little jackal. Sorry, I was supposed to tell you we were changing, but I was getting too distracted discussing low felts and high felts and things. But how lovely is that, a black-backed jackal? Sorry, Mabulla, what am I saying? This is Mabulla. So we've gone back to Mabulla. So how about this? Mabulla is showing us its first little special experience. we've got a black-backed jackal. So this is gnu pan. So gnu, although, oh look, it's possibly just defecated or urinated on that little tuft of grass, which is very normal behaviour from jackals. They often do defecate on raised areas, possibly to ensure that the scent is carried far in the wind. Sorry, I'm all excited because we're seeing a jackal. But this is one of our other new cameras at gnu pan, which of course is the other name for a wildebeest. The wildebeest being the Afrikaans name for that animal. Beautiful trotting motions Jackal's got, very elegant. Right, sorry, Kareem, I got a little distracted there. Yeah, so the low felt is basically referring to those areas which are a little bit more hot, a little bit more humid, because they are closer to the Indian Ocean. What we call a sweeter type of felt, or grassy layer, more different types of species. And then you have what is called the sour felt up in the higher areas, because there's a big central plateau running through South Africa. So those areas around Johannesburg, Pretoria are basically at altitude. Quite a big difference between the eastern coast and the central interior of the country, and because of the conditions it leads to different type of environment, different type of vegetation and different types of animals. So you won't find any springbok, for example, in the eastern side of the country. You won't find black wildebeest in the Kruger area, but you will find the blue wildebeest. Our little jackal's disappeared, but that was absolutely spectacular. It's lovely to see a black-backed jackal. Okay, that was a lovely little cameo from our new camera feed, but I think we're going to head back up to Oldonyo and to those elephants and possibly an interloper. We've got an extra elephant and a rather curious giraffe waiting his opportunity, but I wouldn't suggest it at the moment, buddy. I see Mr. HUAE87 was saying that one time was seen here yesterday, for those of you following his exploits. But yeah, I'd be very interested to know how his tusk is doing, if anybody does know. It looks as if the giraffe have got their timeshare times wrong at the waterhole here. And how about that for a classic African scene? All the elephants having a rest of their trunks over their tusks. It's nice. Some lovely golden light as well. Okay, so these are all big bull elephants here gathered around the waterhole at Oldonyo, but it sounds like we might have a youngster back over at Tau. Let's go have a look. Ah, oh, look, it's a little tiny one. Generally speaking, if a little elephant like that can go underneath mum and not bump into her chest, we would say definitely yet less than a year old. But yeah, maybe just slightly taller than her belly height. So I'd say around about, I'd say 18 months as a guess, but hard to say, but always so special to see these young elephants and watch their antics. We'll see if he or she gets a little bit excited if they're approaching the water. They often do and have to be held back by mum. Chris, in the wild, you were asking what the birds were that the jackal trotted past. Chris, I'm very, very sorry. I was so excited to see the jackal. I had processed that there were some birds there, but I didn't get a good, well, I didn't look at them or figure out what they were, unfortunately. Very sorry. Some sort of ground bird. That's as much as I can remember. If it was a sort of a Franklin spurfowly type thing. But yes, I was a little bit too excited watching the jackal, I'm afraid. Nice to see a swathe of these blue wildebeest moving very, very slowly away from the water, possibly because the elephants have come down and monopolized it for now. Ah, thank you, Jive Bunny. You're saying that old One Tusk's tusk is looking, sorry, One Ton's tusk is looking a little bit better now. That's good to hear. It's one of the amazing things about having regular access to these cameras that we can really get into these animals' lives and start following them and taking particular interest in how they're getting on. Very difficult to discern individual wildebeests from within a group, though. A lot harder to follow an individual unless they've got an obvious mark, a scar, or something similar. Elephants much easier, of course, with their tusks and little nicks taken out of their ears and so on. But if you do spend enough time around individuals, you can begin to notice differences sort of within their faces. I always remember when I spent 4 years or so working at Sabi Sabi in the Sabi Sands, the Pride of Lions there, and we had a big pride. But at one point, we had 8 adult females there, and I was pretty confident that even from a distance, I knew which individual it was. Sometimes even just from the silhouette, the way they walk, the shape of their heads, the shape of their bodies. The more time you spend with them, then the more you really do get to sort of pick up on those little nuances. Corey, back to our birds that we saw. Corey is suggesting that they had their tails up when they were walking, so possibly or probably crested francolins, quite possibly. So I got as far as my brain can sort of pick up the fact that they were a ground bird of some description, but that's as much as I can give you. Sorry, Chris, in the wild. I shall try and be more situationally aware next time. This looks like a very tall elephant. Don't know if it's just the camera perspective, but it looks like it has particularly long front legs. I'm not sure what happened to our little youngster there. Possibly they've gone beyond the realms of the camera, which is a shame. But we've seen some beautiful interactions with baby elephants here at Tau. Saw one the other day that was running so fast he tripped over his own feet. Nice little collection of water birds there. Looks like a spurwing goose, probably a shelduck, a coot. I think I saw a black-winged stilt as well. Always a hive of activity here at Tau. I don't know if these crocs have ever taken a wildebeest or anything. They do spend a lot of time at this waterhole, so I wonder if those crocs ever would. They're maybe not quite big enough, but maybe if a young calf comes down, you never know. And the lone wildebeest who got left behind, strolling across the dusty savannah. Okay, I think we're going to head back up to Oldoño again. Hopefully those elephant bulls and the giraffe are still around. Let's go have a look. Oh, that's such a beautiful scene. Look at those colours. Oh, thank you, Chris in the Wild. You are forgiving me for not noticing the birds. But yeah, a really, really pretty view of a jackal. Not something that we expect to see all the time. Often quite fleeting, but to have one out in the open like that, and yeah, pretty sure either urinated or defecated on that little tuft of grass. As I said, it's not unusual to find their scat lying on raised areas like rocks. They're very, very interesting to see, and a particularly elegant jackal, if I do say so as well. Our big one-tusk elephant moving off into the distance, a little giraffe floating underneath that flat-topped acacia there. You can see the browse line from where the giraffes are not letting those trees grow any lower. It looks very sedate. So I'm loving the perspective of the depth there with the clouds in the sky and the late afternoon sun up there in Kenya. So some spectacular colours. Although I have to say, the grass, that orange grass at Mabulla was so vibrant in comparison. Something new to look forward to, particularly this time of year. Okay, well, unfortunately, we're almost out of time. So even though this is very, very pretty, I think we're going to go back to Mabulla and just enjoy some of these new camera feeds for a minute or two before we have to sign off. There's that beautiful sort of burnt orange green, burnt orange colour. Very much that colour I associate with that high felt this time of year. Lots and lots of different shades, almost sort of bordering on pinks, yellows and oranges, an autumnal feast. I think it also helps contrast it to that blue sky, orange and blue, of course, opposite one another on the colour wheel, so they do contrast really, really well from an artist's sort of perspective. So maybe that's another reason that it looks so inviting today. But hopefully we'll get many more beautiful sightings up at these new waterholes. Don't forget you can follow them online as well. It's beautiful wispy cirrus clouds in the sky. Very, very beautiful. Look at that. It does look like an elephant in the distance, that little acacia there at the back, just right of centre screen. But we're pretty much out of time, unfortunately. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining me and for all of your questions and your comments. I will see you again on Thursday, when I will be delighted to be involved in another Wild Moments show. So I look forward to chatting to you all again then. But wherever you are in the world, thanks so much. I hope you've enjoyed this little window into Africa. And we will hook up with you very, very soon. But have an amazing rest of your days, and I will see you on Thursday.